Saturday, and I am Miss J, and I come to you to have a very good, lively discussion with you on episode 2 of the Shine Bright series. So, hopefully, you are able to watch episode number 1 and get the first 4 tips to living or achieving, obtaining, getting to, whatever you want to call it, your happier life. So I just want to go ahead and make sure that you know that I am Miss J. Of course, you can get to me by reaching out to me via my website, www.missj.com, or my business website where I do coaching and consulting at www.illumingroup. If this is your first time seeing me, then I am a life coach. I love to talk about anything that can improve your life and help you get to a different level, new level, a place where you just feel at peace and basically like you're living your best life. So this month in March is Women's History Month, and I've chosen to take on a topic that I think that a lot of people struggle with, especially in an age of social media where comparison is the rule of the day. You go on and you see Instagram bodies, Instagram houses, Instagram cars, Instagram wardrobes, or when I say wardrobe, closets, shoes, everything spectacular, over the top, and big. And sometimes it gets us to thinking that we aren't where we need to be because we're living by comparison instead of just accepting where we are. So in the first part of the Shine Bright series, we talked about a couple of things. We talked about values, goals. We talked about four topics, and I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh. Clarity, declutter, values, and goals. Clarity, getting clear. Decluttering your life. Sometimes it might be your mindset. Sometimes it might be your expectations. Tuning into your values and getting aligned to those, and then making sure that you understand where your goals are so that all of those can flow together. I am coming to you from this book. It is a book called Shine. And it's by The Essentialist. There are 20 topics in here, and we're going to go spend these next couple of weeks doing 4 to 5 topics, just so that you can get it in a bite-sized, easy-to-digest chunk. Feel free to go get this book online, Amazon. I dropped it in the episode 1. I dropped the link under the bottom of episode 1. You can get it at Amazon. I got it at Barnes & Noble. But I just think it's an easy read and a great reminder for how we should be doing some things differently to get reconnected in a world where there is so many different options, and also there's just so much to sit here and think about. Are we keeping up? Are we where we should be? You need to be happy with where you are, but you also need to be identifying where you're going and how you're going to get there, not just because of who you see on the internet, because the internet has its pluses, but it also has its minuses. And also in your friend circle, you don't want to necessarily be the friend who is trying to keep up with someone or trying to outdo, outshine, etc. Just shine in your own way. Use your own light to do your own things, sis. And so in this episode, we're going to start by talking about mindset. And I love a conversation about mindset because I think that there is just so much to learn. I think that what you consistently feed yourself mentally is what shows up in your life. And so thinking it, believing it, becoming it, all kind of work together. Just in my brain, that's just how it goes, which is why in coaching we talk about identifying and getting connected with things that you are desiring to achieve and how we go about doing that, what techniques that we use to get to our next destination, understanding that the race isn't necessarily always going to end at that destination. You might just be going into your next leg, your next lap, etc. So I wanted to start with mindset. And in this book, there is actually something that was very intriguing to me. I'm going to just pull it out word by word. I'm not going to try to translate it in any manner. But it says that, did you know you have on average 50,000 thoughts every day. And for years, it was thought that the brain was fixed from birth without the capacity to change. Well, of course, now we know that that is not correct, that we still have the ability to learn, change, and grow over the course of our lives. But training your mind takes effort and commitment, and you can build new pathways to train your brain so that you can go from what's considered potentially a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. But mindset, just in general, let me go ahead and pull this over. Is going to enable you to do some things differently. So on the screen, you'll see it says a positive mindset enables you to explore and build skills that apply to multiple facets of your life. So if you have a growth mindset, you basically think that things are possible, that there's continuing possibility in how you navigate the world, how your relationship goes, whatever the case may be. But if you have a fixed mindset, then you're thinking that things are basically just the way that they are. This is how it is. I don't necessarily have something that I can do to change the situation and scenario. But if you are in a growth mindset, then you see possibilities, potentials, etc., which lends itself to a positive mindset, which lends itself to the ability to navigate the world in a different manner. So just think about it. If you have two people in a car, and you have one with a fixed mindset and one with a growth mindset, they both enter into a traffic jam. They're in the car together. They get into a traffic jam. The person with the fixed mindset goes, oh my gosh, this is traffic. We're probably just going to be here for 3 hours. Especially if you're in LA or big city traffic. The person with the growth mindset goes, oh yeah, we're in traffic, but there's probably an opportunity or a way around us. So let's see. They'll hop onto their phone, look at the GPS, figure out if they can get off at the next exit. Where is the detour? Where is my way around this so that I don't have to spend the next 3 hours in a situation, which is potentially just not good for me. So we want to make sure that you are trending more towards having a positive mindset where opportunity and options lie, and not just that it is what it is. I know sometimes we get frustrated and we're like, it is what it is. I don't care. I'm not going to do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. It just is what it is. In reality, we all have the ability to influence our lives, the situations that we're in. And so we want to try to live that a little more. We have a tendency to be more critical and negative to ourselves and more fixed when it comes to ourselves instead of when we support other friends. You could have a friend who comes and asks you for advice or tells you about a situation where they feel like the outcome was just not what they wanted it to be. And typically we're going to be more supportive of our friends instead of being more critical. So what I want you to do to kind of help get your mindset, especially when it comes to how you are navigating the world, into a more positive or growth mindset, is not just give yourself the negative self-talk that you would traditionally do. Well, this is my situation. I can't do anything about it. I hate the job, but it pays the bills, whatever the case may be. Ask yourself, what would I tell my friend? What advice would I give to my friend? Because typically it's going to be a lot more supportive, and it's probably going to also be something that you feel from your heart. So start advising yourself like you would your friend, and see if you make a change, a positive impact in your own life. The other thing is that, sometimes they see tip number 2 says begin your conversations with a positive comment, reflection, or action. When you have the ability to set the tone of the conversation, to set the mood, whatever the case may be. I love to say that, especially as a mom or a wife, that I'm kind of the thermostat. My attitude affects the household's attitude. Well, if you think of yourself as a thermostat, you have the ability to change the temperature of the room that you're entering in. And so you want to see if you can start on a positive note. Start with a positive comment, reflection, or action that may ease some of the tension, the stress, the worry, whatever may be present in the room. And get people also to get away from their mindset that they could be a little more interactive, present, and engaged with whatever the conversation may be. So you starting on a positive note helps everyone else break up their potentially non-positive, and therefore you have the ability to have a better impact or influence on the room. Those are two things. Start with the positive, try to stay in the positive, and if you're getting caught up in your negative self-talk, ask yourself, what advice would I give to my best friend? What would I tell her or him to do? Again, just because we typically are better to others that we care about than we are to ourselves. In the book, on page 36, it says, having a positive mindset is a way of life, a way you choose to be. Elite performers know the importance of having a mindset for achieving iconic results. The same applies for everyday living. You can live in a mindset of fear or worry, or you can choose to live in a mindset of faith and flourish. And when I saw that, faith and flourish, I was like, yes, I highlighted it, underlined it. If you choose faith and flourish over worry and wait, then you definitely you're going to be living more in that fixed, woe is me life. And we want to be living in a faith and flourish. I know what I can do, how I can do it, where I'm going. When you think back to those values, goals, clarity, decluttering, all of those initial steps, get your mindset aligned to the path that you're going to, and then stop worrying and start living in faith and flourish. I loved that tip. You probably will see that on a Instagram post really soon. So there are some tips for creating a positive mindset. Of course, we always like to talk about positive intentions and affirmations, things that you can do to kind of start off your day with in a higher level of functioning, so to say. And then when you do have a setback, instead of just dwelling on the negative, how about you turn that into something, a more powerful lesson? So what could you have done differently or better instead of, oh, I failed here? You want to think more about what your next step is and what you can take away from that situation. There are about 10 tips in the book, and I'll read some of those in our bonus clip on YouTube. So for those of you who first time watching this series, make sure that you stay through the end. If you're watching the replay, go to the YouTube, stay through the end of the scene credits, and I'll come back with bonus scene information, additional tips on these topics. I'll be talking more about mindset and strengths in that bonus tip. So now we're going to transition on over to our next topic, which is strengths. And so in the book, of course, strengths is all about harnessing your potential. And hopefully at this point in your life, you know what your strengths are. And if you don't know how to identify your strengths, then that's definitely something that I go through with my clients in the coaching sessions, because I want them to understand where they're operating out of their power, and operating in your strengths, like the clip on the here. This thing says, operating your strengths allow you to enter into a state of flow, which makes things enjoyable and more effortless. So once you've identified your strengths and understand how you contribute in a higher capacity or in a greater way, then you want to definitely kind of build out those strengths and make sure that you are able to utilize them in different fashions. So if you are a creative person and you like to, let's say, decorate, you like to decorate your house, interior design may come easily, but interior design could also, or that creativity along with your sense of style, color, etc., may also lend itself to fashion styling. It may also lend itself to artwork. So you're designing a room or you're putting things together and you say, oh, this piece of art would be awesome and fantastic. So sometimes that spatial, that gift of spatial clarity and how to organize things could also be a part of your skill set that you're building out so that you could do different things within your world. The second thing that I want to talk about, which I think is very important, is number 2 on the screen, and it says aim for balance in your strengths, because any strength that's overworked can become a weakness. You don't want to consistently be pulling on that one thing, be like a one trick pony. That's what I'm looking for. I'll say a one pony show, but a one trick pony, because you could overwork that muscle, overwork that strength, and then it could potentially be to your detriment. So you want to make sure that you're aiming for balance where your strengths are applied in a positive manner, but you don't want it to be a detriment. So maybe you're a critical thinker, right? Maybe you're someone who can listen to a scenario or proposal and you can poke holes in it. You can make sure that everyone is thinking about the small things so that the whole shebang is covered. But if that's your strength, and seeing the downfall or seeing the potential pitfall so that you can plan for them in the future, think about that same skill in a relationship. Think about where you're probably going to be seen as more critical or a Debbie Downer potentially, or a Donald Downer. If you are consistently saying, hey, what about this? This is going to go wrong. Have you thought about it? Have you thought about it? You might be seen more as someone who isn't necessarily contributing, but someone who's bringing the situation down. So you have to figure out when to leverage and how to leverage it so that it does what it should be doing, which is being a contributor, a positive contributor to the situation, instead of the opposite. In this book, and the reason why this is tied to quote-unquote happiness is because it says knowing your constellation of character strengths is the first step towards living a more authentic life. And the more authentic that you can be, the more that you can draw on who you naturally are, then that's going to make you feel like you're operating in a space where you don't necessarily have to flex all of those other muscles that might not, all of those other muscles that may not be something that comes natural to you. So I do a lot of work around behavioral and personality trait. And if you think about the MBTI, it gives you things like sensing and intuition and sensing, and thinking and feeling, judging, introversion and extroversion, and they kind of live on opposite sides. So if you think about an introvert who has to be an extrovert, that is something that is called a flex, right? So traditionally, I'm an introvert. I like to be, quiet. I get my energy through being alone, being more quiet, being in a space that is calm. An extrovert gets his energy from being around other people. They like to be in a room where there's full of energy, emotion, and action. And so an introvert can flex into an extrovert, but it's going to take a lot of energy and effort. And they're probably going to be drained at the end of the day when they've been quote unquote on. They've been on all day in front of people with others, trying to be what they naturally aren't. But if there is an opportunity for them to be in a space where they naturally are, it's going to make them feel like, okay, this is my happy place. This is my happy place. Being with an intimate few people, 100% myself, not having to do anything that's outside of my comfort zone. That is the type of authenticity that you want to show up, but sometimes you do have to be able to flex. Understand where your strengths are, but also understand that sometimes you do have to do a little different. If you can find a life and a path that allows you to operate in your strength, 80% of the time, you're probably doing a lot better than most people in the world. So there was another thing in here. When it says there are some strengths affirmations, so we talked about mindset, and all of these things kind of trickle and connect together. a strengths mindset or strengths affirmation that help you understand and to stay connected to your strengths is just saying, I have faith in myself and my abilities. My strengths and my talents help me to realize my dreams. My confidence in myself increases daily. And when you're operating on your strength, you are building your self-confidence. So you want to make sure that you at least can identify, understand what your strengths are, and then know how to implement them in the situations that you find yourself in. So if you can understand how to do that, then you are down the path. As an individual, I know that my strength is critical thinking, which is why I used it as an example, but also that it is about helping people and helping people find out the best in them. So I love to have conversations, one-on-one conversations with people where I can dig a little deeper and help them to explore and discover things about themselves or help them see things from a different perspective or vantage point. So that's why I find myself, of course, in coaching and in consulting where I can utilize and leverage those strengths and be in a place where I feel like I'm in my zone, where I'm in a place of flow and it just comes easily to me. Hopefully you will be able to identify some of those things and understand how to apply and live in it. And if you need help in that process, definitely reach out to your girl. I am available, www.illumin.group. All right, so the next one is mindfulness. Now, we've talked about mindset and we're going to be talking about mindfulness, and those are two different things. So mindset is more about how you navigate. It's basically about what color your lenses are. You know, we're talking about rose-colored glasses, right? Your mindset might be rose-colored, might be yellow, might be black. Who knows, depending on if you're in a growth or fixed mindset, positive or negative. But mindfulness is about staying connected to what you're directly experiencing. So staying in the moment, being mindful of where you are, how you are, what's going on around you, etc. So 2 tips for being more mindful. And how mindfulness relates to happiness is because it allows you to stay connected and to enjoy life instead of just kind of living on autopilot. We frequently just go through our days according to a routine and we're not necessarily present. We know how to get to work potentially without even thinking about it. So sometimes our commutes were just like on autopilot. You might just show up somewhere and not even realize that you got there because you weren't present in what you were doing. You were just navigating on autopilot. And sometimes you could find yourself in your relationships navigating on autopilot, or your career, your day-to-day, how you do what you're doing, navigating on autopilot. However, autopilot does not allow you to understand, connect, and enjoy with what you are what's happening and what you are experiencing in the moment. So if you can stop and smell the roses, look around you and appreciate what is happening right now, just be present and centered, then that is what mindfulness is about. A lot of people talk about practicing mindfulness as in meditation, yoga, etc., all of those things, but you can practice mindfulness just sitting at your table, being present with the people that you are having a meal with, staying connected to your senses, which is tip number 1. Enjoying your food, smelling it, tasting it, enjoying it, listening to the conversation that is happening around you, and not necessarily living in a space where you're listening to react, but you're listening to understand, so that then when it is your opportunity to reciprocate conversation, you are at least engaged because you've been present in the conversation. And when you're present in the conversation, not only do you do yourself a favor, but you also do your peers, whoever you're with, a favor by being in a space where you can comprehend, understand, and engage at a deeper level. So you want to be listening. You want to be smelling what's going on around you. There's food cooking. Is there, a candle burning, incense, whatever the case. Staying connected to where you are. What does the carpet feel like under your feet? Or whatever the case may be. Being present in all senses of the word, being present. And so those are the two things about being mindful. It's not about necessarily going into a space where you're just going to reconnect to yourself. And being mindful for yourself is definitely a thing. So I'm not going to discount yoga, meditation, etc. I definitely think that those all have its place in helping you to understand how to connect more intentionally. However, I don't want it to be limited to those things, because mindfulness can become a state of being where you are just living in that space 100% every day, all day, if you understand that from this perspective of it's just staying connected to where you are and what you're experiencing right now. So if you're listening to this, are you with me? Excuse me. Are you with me? Or are you thinking about what you're going to do in 5 minutes because you have to get the laundry out? Are you thinking about how this can impact your life and what you need to be doing potentially differently? Or are you thinking about the chores that you need, the errands that you need to go run, or where you need to be at 2 o'clock? So just being present, being connected, and being intentional about where you're focusing your attention. That is where mindfulness is. And it will help you enjoy things in a whole different manner. When you come out of autopilot, just running, and doing, but being connected. Sitting beside your partner on the couch and smelling their cologne, listening to their heartbeat, their breath, listening to the conversation, watching the show, feeling what's around you, being in tune to the energy that's in the room. All of those things could help bring you a different level of happiness, because there's a different level of connectedness that is attached to it. So that is mindfulness. I really am curious what you're thinking. So hopefully in this playback or in this watching this, you leave me a comment. Let me know what these things potentially mean to you, so that I can understand if this is something that is going to be beneficial to you. Now, this next topic, I went out of order. So if you do go get the book, you're going to see that these 4 don't necessarily go directly together in the book. I went out of order because I wanted to be able to connect some things together that I thought made more sense. So this is Creator's Edit. I'm taking my personal creative license with this. So the next topic that I chose to discuss in this scenario is the topic of boundaries. And so I feel boundaries are very important. And when I read this in the book, I was like, there it is. That is why. So if you look at the screen, you see that boundaries demonstrate your commitment to self-respect. And I told you, if you watched my first episode, that I am very high on respect, especially when it comes to my own self. So I'm going to respect me if I'm going to require you to respect me. And so boundaries help you to draw the lines in your life that demonstrate your commitment to self-respect. So boundaries exist in several different ways. There are so many different types of boundaries. I don't want you to think that I'm talking about one specific thing, or how you may have thought about boundaries prior to this conversation. Maybe I can open up your mind a little bit about where other potential boundaries may be. So of course, the emotional boundaries, they are going to help you be honest with yourself and make sure that you are living in the emotion, nourishing your own energy, and being firm with how you are doing that. Mental boundaries, owning your own thoughts, right? People sometimes try to tell us and program us into the way that they want us to be. And so you have to be connected and committed to what you think and what you know, regardless of outside influences. Physical boundaries, of course, that's about managing your space, your workplace, the money, your technology habits. Of course, I talked about technology habits on point number 2. Creating boundaries. Earlier in the intro, I was talking about Instagram, bodies, houses, wardrobe, etc. You got to be able to figure out what are the things that are not doing you any good. What are the things that aren't serving you, that aren't uplifting you? And then if they are doing those things, you need to silence it, unsubscribe, delete, block, whatever your case may be. Remove it from your world. Set the boundaries and push that outside of the lane of boundaries. Of course, there are sexual boundaries. What are the things that you're willing to do and not willing to do? Social boundaries. That's about owning your own time, owning the relationships, the parts that you're willing to play in relationships, and things that you're just not going to accept, as well as spiritual boundaries. And that is about protecting your own values, protecting your vision, and all of the things that we talked about in episode 1. Staying committed to those and not letting someone pull you out of that or compromise those boundaries for their own sake. So once you've identified these things and you commit to them, number 1 is the tip of the year. Be firm and don't compromise who you are for someone else's life journey. Just because they are in that space doesn't mean that you have to be in that space. Just because it's what they want doesn't mean that's what you have to do or that's what you have to want. You definitely need to understand where your boundaries are and then make an effort to protect those boundaries. You have to vocalize them. You have to stay committed. You have to understand how to say no. You have to understand how to say no potentially multiple times, because sometimes others will just keep pushing, and especially if you've been someone who would potentially give in, or she'll do it, I'll just ask her again, I'll ask her, she'll do it. Then you have to make sure that you are committed to those boundaries so that you can be in control of your life and be confident in your space. You have to protect your space so that you can communicate your thoughts and basically navigate your experience, because this is your life. This is your life. So you have to do what is right for you. And boundaries in relationships. One of my favorite things, let me take this off the screen. One of my favorite things to talk to my clients about is in all aspects of life. You are going to teach people how to treat you. I say this, and if you've watched me before, you understand. I've said this 100,000 times. At work, in a relationship, in a friendship, in your family relationships, even though they've been around forever, you are going to have to teach people how to treat you. So therefore, understanding your boundaries, what is going to go and not going to go, is always up to you. And when you get pulled out of that space, that's when you get pulled, you feel like you're compromising, and you don't want to compromise yourself. So therefore, at work, what's not going to go? Someone calling you names, or always piling work on you, or demanding things of you last minute. You have to push back and be like, no, this isn't my emergency. You should have planned differently. I can get this to you by XYZ, but not in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen. In your love relationships, what is this person expecting of you, or what is this person not giving you potentially that you want, that you need? And so being able to communicate that and make sure that you're not settling for less. Making sure that if I need quality time, because that's my love language, that I'm just not going to settle for 15 minutes on the phone. I need more than that. Being able to communicate that. And if that's something that they can't deliver, being able to or willing to walk away, so you're going to be committed to yourself instead of settling. Family relationships. I've had my own mental evolution around family relationships and where my boundaries are in family, because sometimes it feels like those are people that automatically just get what they want, quote unquote, because they are your family. Well, that title happened by birth, but it might not necessarily happen because the relationship was nurtured and it was something that you want to continue to commit to. So you have to figure out, where are my family boundaries? What am I going to do for family? When am I going to show up? When am I going to go above and beyond? Because like every relationship, if it's not reciprocal, then potentially is it even worth it? So that's my little soapbox on boundaries. You have to identify them, because if not, then you're potentially susceptible to anything. And if you're going to stand up for anybody, it should be yourself. So that is the next 4 of that 20 tips for getting getting connected to a more happy life, whatever your version of happy is. And I have to put this disclaimer out there as well, that happiness is going to look different for everybody. What happy is to you is not necessarily going to be what happy is to your neighbor. So you want to make sure that you understand what that is, and that's what you're driving to. It doesn't matter what Miss J thinks happiness is, because my happiness looks a lot different from a lot of folks' happiness. I'm good with the small things. There are some things that I want big and major, and there's some things that I just want to be steady and consistent. And I don't care about necessarily the comparison. I'm comfortable in my skin, but that might not necessarily look like happiness to someone else. So that's the tips. Go back and look at it. There is some homework. Of course, there's always homework. If you don't understand what your strengths are, I want you to see if you can identify at least your top 3, because these are the things that you typically lean on, whether it be in your relationship, at work, etc. These are the things that you frequently go to. So if you're a good listener, if you are a great helper, if you're someone who is naturally nurturing, and you do those things to help support your community, your network, your relationships, then figure out how you can do more of that in a manner that makes you feel more satisfied. If you don't understand where your boundaries are, or you feel you've been placed in a position where you have been giving more or doing more than you choose, you need to be able to identify your boundaries, write them down just for yourself so that you can stay committed and connected to that. Mindfulness, remember, stay present. Just try it today. Stay present for your day. Be present with where you are. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? What are you hearing? Stop thinking about what's coming next. My kids live in a what's next society, and I'm like, can you just be? Let's just do right now. Let's just do this and worry about what's next later. And the other thing, if mindfulness equals meditation to you and you don't know what meditation is, just start for 5 minutes a day. Start for 5 minutes sitting in silence, finding you a quiet place so that you can get to a space where you can not necessarily turn off your thoughts, but be more present and available for those thoughts. And then eventually maybe you get to a space where there is silence. But in the beginning, it doesn't have to be silence. It can just be intentional thinking and connectedness to yourself. So that's the tips for today. Again, I am going to post bonus tips on the YouTube page. So there will be a secondary posting to this that will allow you to click and watch the YouTube video. If you are watching on YouTube, of course, we're going to go to basically like a 20-second cut screen where I'm going to end the Facebook Live. You'll get the bonus tips in the Facebook group. Not Facebook group, and on the YouTube page. So don't forget to subscribe when you get over there. If you have any questions or comments, thank you for going ahead and dropping it in. Feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the next screen. So make sure you jot it down, and I look forward to seeing you soon. YouTubers, hang on in there. I'll be right back. YouTube. So you stay for the bonus, and in the bonus I want to give you some additional tips, especially when it comes to the strengths and when it comes to mindfulness. Not mindfulness, mindset. So I marked 2 things in the book. Again, the book is Shine. If you didn't catch the beginning of this, and here are the top tips for creating a positive mindset, not mindfulness. I talked in the episode, start your day with a positive intention, statement, or affirmation. Train your mind to allow the day to be terrific. So start your day with positive self-talk. It's going to be a great day. If you're a spiritual person, maybe starting in gratitude or giving thanks would be something as well to set the tone and the mood for your day so that you can stay more connected to the positivity instead of starting in especially on Monday mornings. It's super hard on Monday when you're like, oh, it's Monday, I don't want to do it. But Maybe you're like, it's Monday, I get to go have a great week ahead and make an impact at my job. Second tip was already on the screen. Begin your conversations with a positive note. Third thing, focus on good things, no matter how small. So, where can you find the positive in your life? Definitely focusing and attention there is going to help you start to see positivity and good things everywhere else that you look. Because you start to train your brain to find the good. And once you train your brain to find the good, you're also going to see more of that. Focus on the present, not the past or the future, which lends itself to the mindfulness conversation. Where am I and what can I be doing right now? Use your phone. I like this tip. Use your phone to schedule a daily mindset reminders, such as 8 a.m. every day, putting in, sending yourself a message or whatever the case may be that says today is effortless and easy. Maybe that's your daily reminder. This one I also like because I think it's just a good reminder. This says you are who you have lunch with. So surround yourself with inspiring light makers, game changers, and people who enjoy life. Sitting at a table 5 days a week with people who are complaining, who are woe is me, who are life sucks, is not going to do anything to help you get to a better space. So you want to move your table. Pick up your chair and go somewhere else so that you can be surrounded by people who are exhibiting and saying the things that are going to support where you're trying to go. And then we talked about making sure that the language that you're using when you have your own self-talk is more positive, the way that you would talk to a friend and being supportive for a friend, and not just allowing those automatic negative thoughts to manifest when it comes to yourself. So there's a quote. Of course, there's always a quote that says, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So you have the ability to shape all of those things, and it starts here. The next bonus piece is going to be in strengths. And operating your strengths builds your self-confidence and help you to achieve long-term success instead of wasting time on undeveloped skill sets. Now, what does that mean? That means, let me tell you, this is a personal quote-unquote testimony. I am a creative person, and I talked about creativity in the Facebook Live. And so sometimes I think that creativity lends itself to everything. And I also, as you see, I like graphic tees, right? I like graphic tees. You'll probably see me with one of these on most Saturdays. I thought, okay, well, I like graphic tees. I'm a creative person. I'll go ahead and do that. I'll make a business, and it'll allow me to do that. I did. I had a company called Janie and May, and I sold sweatshirts, t-shirts, etc. with phrases, statements, etc. on it. I was operating in my strength. That would have been the design part. However, where I didn't necessarily have a desire or strength for was in the selling part. That isn't necessarily something that comes naturally to me. Actually, it's something that I'm quite averse to. I had my first job out of college, or my internship to get out of college was a salesperson. And I actually realized at that point in time that that was just not for me. I don't want to have to convince anybody of anything. So needless to say, that didn't last long. But when it showed up in Janie and May, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to design this line, and I'm going to sell it to people, and it's going to be awesome. And I was like, yeah, I enjoyed the creative part of it, but I didn't enjoy the selling part of it. So therefore, Janie and May had to go away because it was taking me a lot of effort and energy to try to figure out how to make that successful. And I was wasting time because I had to learn a lot of things and try to push myself into a space that was making me flex undeveloped muscles. And so I wanted to put that somewhere, put my effort and energy in a place that allowed me to more naturally do the things that I'm strong in, which is that one-on-one coaching or small group coaching, because I can see how that helps people. I can see the evidence of what I'm doing come together without necessarily having to sell, because in coaching you have to have a willing party, someone who knows and understands that they need coaching, and then you have to have a coach that matches, and it just goes together naturally. I'm not appealing to the masses. I have a boutique firm. I'm not appealing to the masses. And so when you understand where your niche is, or the things that make you happy, that comes easily understanding how to apply them in a manner that doesn't necessarily allow you or require you to waste time. So maybe as a creator, I could create these shirt ideas and sell them to other people, but I don't necessarily want to sell the shirt. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can work out some of that, like creative director potentially opportunities, but selling that stuff wasn't just for me. So you have to understand where and how to apply your strengths, and then the things that aren't going to allow you to do that easily, you have to be able and willing to cut those out of your life so that you can be more connected to the things that make you happier, instead of stressing yourself out on the things that just isn't going to work. It's not going to come together. So that's that. Go get the book. It's an awesome little read. Hopefully during these next 2 weeks upcoming, you're going to see and learn some more things, and you can put it all together, or work with myself to help you put it all together so we can get you on to a path of more additional happiness, bring more happiness, light, and love into your life so that you can show up and live the life that you choose. So thank you for tuning in for this little bonus cut of Living and Leading with Miss J, I guess. Saturdays with J. I've had so many different opportunities. Let's just call it Miss J. You see it up there. Boop. Thank you for spending time with me. Reach out to me if you have any questions. And I look forward to seeing you and hearing from you soon. Have a fantastic day.